bread and butter. We'll come back to that in a minute. Yes, 40% is huge. Because think of Maid Chloe and how often she stuns. She's 35%. So 40% is 5% more. Um, attacks all enemies with alien technology, 75% chance to decrease hit chance, and buff block. You guys all know how crazy buff block is. You can't violin into this, obviously, because violin strips after. But if you counter first and strip, then you would be able to do this. It would work really well. Plus, this actually does quite good damage. So don't sleep on this damage. You would want this to be at least +4 if you're building her just as like a counter cleave, like if you're building her bruiserish. But it can do good damage if you build her on damage too. And then finally, the skill 2 everybody's been waiting for reduces the effect of combat readiness increase by 50%. Does not stack with other passives affected by the same name. Activates Tranquility when enemy uses non-attack skill. Tranquility can be activated once every 2 turns. So obviously, not being able to use every turn is good. So kind of like Elena in that regard, she just can't heal every turn. So this can't proc every turn. The difference is when she gets to proc, she AoE attacks your team, decreasing buff durations by 1 turn. So if you just have immunity, that's like single turn immunity from gear, she can strip that immunity, and then she can crown stun you. And then she will CR boost herself and potentially go into her skill 3. So you have to be kind of careful with that. I have her on crown in the attempt to strip stun with the skill 2. Mine is somewhat slow, only 224 speed, not tanky at all, but an insane amount of effectiveness. I'm going to change this gear, but as you can see, she's only 3-star awakened and 5-star, so and level 34. So none of these stats matter. Just the effectiveness, really, just to try her out and play with her today. We will try her in the RTA, but first, are you going to fully mola her? I don't know. I have other things I have to mola first. Like, I'm still working on my operator secret, so I think that's going to be more important. Is she still crashing RTA? They did a patch last night, so I'm hoping it's fixed now. Because if not, we just can't do RTA. Alright, so let's go through these and see who this affects. Oh, it is fixed? Okay, good. So technically, it could affect Ravi. In terms of when you hit her, it would reduce her amount of increase. Nothing crazy, though. I wouldn't say she's a Ravi counter. Who else has attack bar boosts here, or non-attack skills that people would be using? In theory, Tamarin, but you probably won't be using her against Tamarin. You could use her against the Lilius Provoke if you really wanted to. That's pretty much it for fire units, though. There's really not a lot of stuff you would bring this in against fire units. If somebody's bringing a Yuna into you, it could work against Yuna to prevent them from doing skill 2. Dian, it could work against Dian. She would buff up, which is non-attack skill. Yeah, I know. She would buff up, and then instantly your poly would counter, strip something, or not. Actually, it wouldn't be a strip; it would be a reduction. So, if your DN went first, you could potentially reduce skill immunity and then stun. So maybe. Um, Wait, hold on. Is it one buff or all buffs? Where'd she go? Polly, where are you? Why is she not on there? She's a mage. Oh, there she is. All buff durations by 1 turn. So she would be able to still remove the immunity. It's not like Sage Ball, where it's only 1 buff. So would reduce all. including the immunity on the rest of your team, and then have a chance to stun. It does reduce the pushes of herself for Cerise, because Cerise has pushes on herself. I wouldn't use it into a Cerise counter unless it's Cerise CDOM, and then we'll talk about CDOM in a bit. Could counter Elena's push if you really wanted to. Again, same with Flan. Like if somebody's bringing Flan, I think against Rose comps would be good. Very good counter actually, because usually the Rose comps it's a small boost first of all, so small boost made smaller, and usually the speeds are much closer in a Rose Cleave. So you could bring her into a Rose Cleave quite easily. And first of all, when she moved, you would be able to do your counter. And then right away, you would be able to probably take your turn as well. So that could work quite well. Up next, if you see an Izaria team somewhere, maybe an RTA, could be good against Izaria. It would lock down her skill 2, which would be really nice, maybe with Izaria Corvus. Although you don't see a lot of Izaria right now, but you could. Same with Violet. Wouldn't be able to use the skill 2. Same with Vivian. Could be really good against Vivian, actually. Prevents the immunity and prevents the... or you just get counter stripped right away. Although it's a reduction, so it actually wouldn't strip. So maybe it's not good against Vivian. I take that back. It would reduce her boost, so she wouldn't be able to take her second turn right away. But the immunity, it wouldn't strip. It would just reduce it. So she'd still be fine in that regard. In theory, Ray, but he's got 2-turn immunity as well, so probably not. It would just reduce the length of it. Rowana, it could be good against. You could reduce the time of her buff. Might be worth doing. Same with Destina's Ray. We've been skipping over a lot of the 3-stars, but one of the important ones that I don't want to skip over is Falcon or Clary. So Falcon or Clary, because she's always the fastest unit and one of the strongest teams in RTA, is when people get Clary, Rylet, and ML Lulu through, she would be great into those 3. Because, first of all, Clary's a non-attack skill. If she skips her turn, the Lulu's a non-attack skill. And if she doesn't do her boost, then it kind of ruins the whole concept of the team. So they didn't get the defense break, or they didn't get the nuke, and they didn't get stealth. Shield from Lulu. So it could kind of hard shut that team down, which would be kind of nice. Same with Ruzid. Be good against the Ruzid boost. You'd probably be able to cut. Here, these are all attack skills, except for Lulu. Lulu's really the only one, and she hard cucks Lulu, like, really badly. We just talked about her a little bit, but stopping the skill 2 boost and stopping the skill 2 attack buff and stopping skill cycling, that's a huge hit to Lulu if you bring her in against Lulu. Who else do we have here? Shooting Star Katie's. You don't see a lot of her, but it would do bad things to Shooting Star Katie's. Whenever she tries to use the revive, it would reduce it, probably cut, debuff whoever your damage dealers are. It could be really annoying. The big one that everyone's wanting to know is Oxlots. We're going to test that today here on stream. The Oxlots one is interesting because Oxlots boosts 100% if he's skilled up. So, yes, it's a non-attack skill, and yes, it'll reduce CR, but your unit's going to get a turn before she cuts every time. The only issue is what artifact she's on and whether or not she's able to strip and debuff that unit. So that's going to be interesting. We'll test that out, though. I'll try and post some clips with that. The next one, yes, it would work on Crozet. It wouldn't probably do all that much though, unless he's on the CR exclusive. CDOM is a big one. Depending on her, what artifact Poly is on, is how it's going to affect CDOM. So you could build a high crit rate CDOM to counter it, or you could just risk it and say, hey, the odds of me getting crown stunned aren't very high, especially if she's already on immunity, because then she has to land the strip, and then she would have to land the crown stun. And it would reduce the CR push that she has as well. So reducing the CR push could be big enough to make a difference in the fight. But if CDOM does get to her turn, then she'd most likely be fine. The issue is getting her to her turn. So if you're boosting her with Oxlots, that's fine. But if you're boosting her with someone that just quad crits, those normally the 10% per crit is now 5% per crit. So instead of gaining 40% attack bar, she only gains 20% attack bar. She might get cut. She's going to get cut a lot easier, and she would also need higher crit rate if you aren't going to use her skill 2, and she would need higher speed. So you might see CDOMs being a little bit faster with higher crit rate and outputting a little less damage as well. Could be good against Singelica. If someone brings Singelica into your RB, you could bring Poly. Not only because of that, but also we should talk about the RB actually. We'll go back to RB in a second. What's up, Pink? But yeah, the Singelica would get countered right away when she goes to use her skill. If we come back to the RB, somebody actually mentioned earlier that it counters the RB when he revives, and it kind of does. Not fully though, because he does get 100% attack bar. So if the attack bar is at the time of the kill, if the person going is obviously at 100%. If you have somebody at 99% who's going to go next, but the RB's at 50% and you kill him, he's going to get 100% attack bar divided by 2, which is 50%, which means he's actually going to cut your 99% unit. So he would have to be under 50% when he dies in order to not automatically get next turn. So keep that in mind. It can help you against him in terms of when he revives and where he is on the attack bar when he revives. But just you have to be ultra aware of where he is on there when you kill him. Yes, Danny. Hi, YouTube. And finally, the light units. Ruel's obviously non-attack skill. She would be able to counter. If they bring Ruel and some damage dealers, it could be nice. Could counter the CR boost when she gets crit from LQC, but I probably wouldn't just bring that in there because LQC is probably just going to take a turn and nuke her. Could be good against Sage in terms of preventing him to cut. He gets a lot of turn cycling and a lot of self-attack bar boosts, so it could be good against him. The only issue is that he doesn't have any non-attack skills, so you wouldn't be using him in that regard. You'd just be trying to slow him down, maybe in like a bruiser comp or something. Same as Spez, like when he stuns, he gets attack bar boosts, so it could slow him down a little bit, but you're probably not bringing her into Spez either. Then Faithless Litica is one of the bigger ones. So if we take a look at her kit here, her skill 2 does attack, so she won't get countered by the poly counter, but this boost is going to be locked down quite significantly. So her own boost is 100% because it's 4 units times 25%. So that means if she does her skill 2 first, to go into her skill 3, she's only going to be at 50% attack bar. So it's going to block her skill 3 basically from happening because all of their units are going to cut her skill 3. Also, she boosts all other allies by 5% per target, which would be 20% against 4 units, which now means she's only getting a 10% attack bar boost on the rest of your team. So that could definitely let you get cut if it's really close, like say it's your Flitica against like Assassin Sid and I don't know, whoever else, Assassin Sid, Cerise, a bunch of fast units. Normally, you'd be able to do this, and your CDOM and all your units there would be able to cut. Now that won't work because your CDOM won't cut, whoever else won't cut, and your Litica won't get her reset off in time. So if they have immunity, you won't even be able to reset them at all. It could cause problems there. Silverblade Era, it could lock down her cycling a little bit, but odds are if they're bringing Era, you're going to be stunned anyway, so it really won't matter. Maid Chloe could shut down things like Water's Origin, which would be really nice. Um, Also, could help reduce her with the strip. Could reduce the revive time and the attack buff time, and of course shut down any damage dealers that are paired with her. Same with Basar. He does have a boost, so it could shut down the boost on him. But you're probably not bringing her into Basar either. And a lot of these other units, like you're just not like he doesn't have a boost. None of these units really you're going to bring her into that I can think of. Maybe Doris, because she has a boost with her skill 3, but that's about it. Yeah, the CERN, it could lock down the CERN boost, that's true. The CERN boost isn't huge, though, and odds are when you counter her, she would just auto-cleanse it anyway. So, unless she cleansed into the boost and was going to cut, then it would lock down the boost and potentially land a debuff on her. It could help, but if you end up cutting, it would be nice. But yeah, that's going to be it for this part. We're going to go do some testing, and I will try and post some clips on the video after this. So, yeah. All right, so I found a few clips for you guys. Some with us winning against Poly, some losing against Poly. Let's speed this up a little bit, just because the drafts can be kind of boring. Basically, I'm going to try and show both sides of it. So not only are you going to get what she does to help the team on the offensive end, but kind of how she doesn't work as well as some people thought she was going to work as well. So we go with the speed imprint here into the double speed units plus the RV. And then he goes his Polly. So his Polly, keep in mind, she's only level 50 here. And then we go into Celine again. So now we have 2 units that can do things when we do non-attack skills with the Celine and with the Polly. Normally in this situation, I'd probably go LQC and just ban the Polly, but in this situation, I leave her in because we're obviously trying to test her. And it makes me go off the board here, so I decided to pick Haste, ban their fastest unit. Kind of a weird pick, but I'm hoping that I can get first turn and then just be able to snipe that first turn Arby. He does go ahead and ban the haste, which is kind of interesting. Leaving our normal cleave in against Polly and against Celine. So normally what I would do here, assuming I had drafted LQC and then she got banned, is I would put up skill prevent with my skill 3 with the Litica, and then my Oxlots would go boost whoever I want, and then I couldn't die. In this situation, because we can't do that, we have to go with our skill 2 here to make sure that our Oxlots gets next turn. So Oxlots does get next turn here. We boost into the Shuri. Luckily for us, she counters into the CDOM. That counters into... The Poly counters into us, strips everything, including the attack buff, and because our boost was limited, we also get cut there, and then slept. So normally, none of that would happen, because we would just go right into a turn, but because the Shuri is relatively slow, we only get 50% attack bar boost. We'll look at that again a little bit later, but that's a good example of how you may not end up getting the actual turns you think you're going to get, even with the Oxlots. So here's another one that I thought was interesting. This was just us testing this. Amp and I were doing some friendly battles, so I knew he was going to pick her. He knew I was going to cleave him. We had this prearranged so that we could try and get some testing in, just so we could kind of see it. That's why he went with her early here. So again, I go double speed imprint. I have to ban his speed imprint. That way I'm guaranteeing myself first turn. He decides to ban one of my speed imprints, and here we go. So we get first turn. We're going to boost with the... So we're looking at the attack bars here. We're going to boost with the Litica to see where we can get to with our attack bars and see if we can boost still. Basically what needs to happen is we need to be within 20% of where she is. So now the CDOM is within 20%. So we could boost the CDOM if we want to. I decided to go ahead and boost the Surin. We get countered here as expected. She misses the strip on the Surin, which is really nice. No debuffs land. This Poly is on Siren, so she can land a random debuff. And she did happen to land it. Unfortunately for us, this was a tanky RB, and we couldn't kill the RB. So we end up killing the other two. But you can see kind of the impact she can have there, and kind of the fail. But the other thing you'll notice is that our CDOM never got a turn. We did a whole bunch of crits. CDOM never got a turn, and Polly ended up cutting, and now she's able to blind everybody. And we burn into this, and we don't get the kill because we couldn't use because we were silenced and blinded. We don't get the kill, and now Tenebra can get her skill off. And at this point, we have no chance, right? Like, even if we kill, we get countered here. Even if we end up killing the RB, there's really nothing we can do at this point. He's just going to wipe us. So that'll be it for this one. Let's move on to the next one. All right, so here's a very similar setup, just so you can kind of see it again. So what you have to keep in mind if you are trying to Oxlot's Cleave is his boost now is only 50%, and she boosts herself by 30%. So whoever you're trying to boost has to be within 20% of the person you're trying to get in front of, particularly her. She has to be within 20% of her, otherwise or else you're gonna get cut. So we go with a little bit different team here. No speed imprints. But this time I'm gonna ban the Sid because I obviously don't have a choice. So I ban the Sid. He bans the Lulu. And we're gonna take a look at the CDOM boosting here. My Sigrid actually has quite good gear here, but she's not fully skilled up, so it kind of changes the way I play it. So first things first, it's up to Litica. We look at the attack bars to see where we stand. I decide that I'm going to be able to cut, so I'm going to boost here. I do the small boost. Unfortunately, we miss, so we miss a crit, leaving our CDOM a little further behind. Now we have a decision to make as to who we want to boost with the Oxlots. So I decide to boost her, triggering the counter. The counter doesn't really do much, although it did silence the CDOM again. Now we're going to go into our skill 3 in an attempt to boost the CDOM, reduce the poly. Unfortunately for us, we don't get the reduction on the poly. She gets a turn, and now we're going to get blinded. And at this point, we're pretty much dead. We're fully buff blocked, we're silenced, we're blinded. Not much we can do at this point. Also, our Litica, who boosted earlier, doesn't have a chance to put up her skill 3, so we can't reset anybody. We can't, we can't put up skill prevent. So, all of those things kind of get taken away from us. We do try and reset him anyway, for whatever reason. It doesn't matter at this point. This fight's over. So let's move on to, these are pretty much how most of these fights went in terms of those cleaves, but I have some where we were successful, and I want to break those ones down a bit too. So let's jump over those ones. Alright, so here's an interesting one with a very similar team. I don't want to show you all replays against the same people because a lot of them have very similar, like obviously if it's the same person, he's going to have the same build, right? So this way we get to see some different builds from different people. This time he goes with the Celine, but we are able to pick LQC this time, which is very interesting. This is what I would normally draft into this if there was no poly there. I'm actually going to slow this down because I think this is the one that yeah, so he bans our speed imprint, but we ban their fastest unit anyway. We know at this point we're going to boost into the LQC, which means we don't even need our skill 3 from the Litica. So let me actually try and slow this down before it's too late. Because I think we look at the attack bars first. Maybe not. Maybe I slowed it down for nothing. So I could skill 3 here, but I want that Celine to attack into my LQC. So we're going to go with the strip. And the boost is nice too at this point. Okay, so I don't actually show the attack bars here. So this is the wrong... Oh, we do show the attack bars. Okay, so you can see our LQC is at 69%. She's at 85%. So we know we're going to cut the poly here. So we can safely boost her. We do get countered by the Celine, which is exactly what we thought was going to happen. We do get countered by her as well, which is exactly what we thought was going to happen. She strips the immunity, we get to keep our attack buff, and now we can still do our skill 3 here into the FCC. The only real issue is still the fact that Poly's still there. So we do need to cut the Poly with the CDOM, and you can see if you look in the bottom left, we're a little behind right now, and our boosts are not very big. Fortunately, we do get a crit there, and we have Sachet, so we are going to cut with the CDOM. We do huge splash damage with LQC, we get our second turn. We can pop this Surin, and now CDOM can safely do her skill 3 without having to worry because she's already countered once. And we even have the souls left to burn into it. And this is pretty easy cleanup at this point. He can't possibly win. So let's throw this back up to normal speed, finish off this fight, and we'll jump into the next one. Alright, we're back. So this time I knew he had we had faced him earlier to throw, so I knew he had poly, and so I wanted to try bringing Cerise into this one with CDOM and some other really fast units instead of going with the Oxlots. So the Oxlots is actually the one who is working really well. The Litica boost seems to be affected by her a little bit more, except Litica doesn't get countered. So it depends what you're more afraid of. Are you afraid of the counter strip, or are you afraid of the of getting cut? So she will always get her turn 3 off, or her skill 2 off, and she won't be countered. But she will not get her skill 3 because she only gets 50% attack bar, since she normally only boosts herself 100%. In this case, with these units, I decided to go really fast ML Air. She's around 250, as is my ML Lulu, who's hopefully my bridge unit to my SSB. In the hopes that I can get... First of all, that he won't be able to kill. So he last picks the Oxlots here, which I find interesting. I'm pretty sure I can outspeed him at this point. So I ban the Rin, he bans the Cerise. And it's just Oxlots versus Flitica here. So we do get first turn, but here's the issue, right? We're going to go into this, and we have a decision to make. Is our boost going to get the Lulu a turn? Because we know our boost is... We should have checked there. I wish I would have for the video. But our boost is not very big. Thankfully, we get there. Now, next issue is, do I want to do this? Because I'm going to get countered if I do it. If I use it, I'm going to get countered like this. Or I could have just tried to kill, but I decided I wanted the attack buff. We decide to use it just so make sure we can kill the RB, and I'm pretty sure at this point we can win. Assuming we kill the RB, of course. So we do get the RB kill, and then we're able to go into the SSB. Not really a control team, but having her there and having somebody really fast that's not going to get cut kind of helps to make this work. So we end up getting the AoE stun there. We go into the Litica. Unfortunately, she got silenced, so we can't use our skill 3 there. But Polly already missed her turn. SSB has max stacks, so we can go into her skill 3 here, and she'll counter as soon as the enemy moves. He is going to get a turn with the Oxlots here, and there's really nothing we can do about it, but at least she gets her skill off. Unfortunately, she misses 2 of them. She does get the Polly kill, though, and the Sachet proc actually lets us cut, which was very fortunate, because now she's dead. Lulu ends up killing Oxlots, and that's going to be the end of this one. So you can see, just because you do bring her doesn't guarantee you the win. But I have one more fight I want to show you guys, and then we'll wrap this up showing you guys some stats and what I think about her gear and how you should make her work. Alright, so last fight for the Poly showcase here. Like I said, I'm gonna show some gear after this. I will show you mine, even though she's only 5-star. But I'm gonna show you somebody else's as well, because mine's not 6-starred yet. But I can show you kind of what stats you can look at, and maybe some other options as well. Actually, we might show one more fight after this. We'll see. See how it goes. See if I can find it. Because there was one more interesting fight that showcased her in somewhat different way. And it makes it kind of interesting. So Ink Cross here goes with the Poly. We go with pretty much the standard team we've been going with. Then he decides to go with the Celine. I'm not overly worried about his last pick here. Because at this point I'm just planning on going LQC and banning the Cerise, because I know I can outspeed everybody else. So we do exactly that. And he's got to decide what he wants to ban now. Keep in mind, a lot of these people we've played many times, so they have a good idea of what I'm going to do at this point, either because they watch stream or just because we've played so many times. That's why the other one earlier on, they actually banned the LQC, because I've done it to them before. So let's see what Ink Cross decides to do here. He decides to go ahead and leave my LQC in and bans the Litica. So he was trying to outspeed me there, thinking that I would automatically ban the Cerise. He decides to leave it in, which means we can just go right into it. Now, we do have to check these attack bars. This is very important again. So if we pause it here, you can still see that, right? It's a little annoying, but you can still see the attack bars. So you can see LQC is at 62%. And Polly's at 81%. So she's going to get a 30% boost, which brings her to 111. LQC is going to get a 50% boost, which brings her up to 112, which means she's going to go first. And also remember, the Celine is going to counter as well. So thankfully, my LQC is just barely fast enough. We do get countered. Unfortunately for us, she's on a different exclusive. And the Poly, she didn't kill, but the Poly team up actually is what ended up killing us there. We can't hit the Celine because she's in stealth. But the Poly is going to go next, so I decide I don't want to risk dealing with her. So we just kill the Poly. Try and proc the Kayron. Unfortunately, it failed. Didn't expect him to take that little damage there. He goes into the pushback, gets the really lucky pushback on the Vildred, and now can use her skill 3 into the Vildred. He already knows that he's not going to kill the LQC because he already had his counter. So I decided to go with Burn into this. That way I can boost into the LQC again. I really need to proc his passive here if I have any chance of winning. We could probably end this since Poly's already dead, but I thought this was an interesting fight, so we'll play it out. We did get the silence on the Crow, which is super helpful. Means he can't skill 3 and we don't have to worry about it. So he decides to go with his skill 1 here. I think he knows that he can't kill my Oxalot, so he just wanted as much damage as possible. We go ahead, knock over the Kayron. This Crow is 2 turns silenced. And we get a huge resist there. If that Provoke would have landed, it could have messed us up. She goes into the LQC. LQC lives. We have our skill 3 now. I need to heal up, and he's still silenced, so we can just empty our skill 3 into the Crow, heal back to full, and then use the Oxalots back into her again to make sure we get that kill. So we get countered again, this time into the Oxalots, but Oxalots already did his job. And he actually happens to survive here, which is crazy. But Crow goes down. We use the Oxalots to take her out of stealth. She gets a turn and can't kill anybody and is going to lose her buff as well, her evasion buff. So she kills the Oxalots, but our LQC is just too much to handle and is able to finish her off. So that's going to be it for this one. Let me see if I can find that other fight. If I can't, then we'll go right into the stats. Alright, so I couldn't find the last clip I was looking for, unfortunately. Just quick rundown of what that was. I did find somebody with a damage poly as well. They were running her on pure damage. Unfortunately, so it can do really, really well, but at the same time, it can also do really poorly. In our situation, basically what we did is he left our Flitica and our Oxalots in. So I just Flitica skill 3'd so that the poly counter would go into skill prevent. And then Oxalots went next, boosted, the poly counter did nothing, and then we didn't have to worry about it because she was very slow and didn't have to worry about her cutting. So, but another interesting interaction. In terms of how she should be geared and how you should use her, I do think she's very good. But she does have to be geared well, and she has to. She has to have a good artifact. She has to do something when she counters with her skill 1. Because if people are letting you do that into them, then odds are they have something planned out. They have a way planned out to beat you. So, like in this case, on this poly on the screen here, you can see she is on Seer Ren. You could use Crown as well. It just depends how many copies of Crown you have available. I think what's probably going to happen with her is people are going to have her really well geared for the first couple of weeks. And then as they don't use her very often anymore, they'll probably start stealing gear from her, and the gear quality will go down. Also, same thing with Crown. I think Crown is best in slot for her, but I don't think a lot of people are going to be willing to take their Crown off other units that they're already using. So keep that in mind. I think the first few weeks is going to be when she's going to be the hardest to deal with. If you are trying to cleave into her, and if you're not, it probably doesn't matter. Also, she does work into units like Flurry. I did use her at low level. I just didn't want to show clips of using like a level 34 poly and try and make it look like that was a good idea. So I decided not to. But we did do it on stream, and it was a lot of fun. You can see the gear here is very good. This Polly is up to 272 speed, which is really impressive considering her slow base speed. She's only 106 base speed. So to get her to 272 speed with 83 effectiveness and 1500 defense, 14k HP is still very, very good. This was actually one of the ones we faced in one of the videos, like the ones against Amp. This is his Polly and how he has her geared. So you can kind of use this as a guide. You could also build her on damage. You could also just build her really thick. You could also build her on high effectiveness. I wouldn't worry too much about the effectiveness, to be honest, because you're probably using her against Cleaves. He has more than enough here with 83. I think you could even go lower if you want to. If you're only using her against Cleaves, then you don't need her to have high effectiveness. If you are trying to use her in other places, like against Flurry, and you're going to build her really tanky, and build her to counter other stuff than just Cleaves, then you would potentially want to go high effectiveness because you'll be going into Crows and stuff like that. But anyway, just an idea. I want to show you some sort of stats. So here you go. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I have to go get some rest because it's almost Sunday and we got to get ready for Arena Rush tomorrow. So hope everyone has a good night, and we'll see y'all then. Bye for now, guys.